Hello and welcome back to Closely Observed English. Here is another writing feedback video at C1 advanced level, and we're looking at another essay. This one has to do with how the government can encourage people to take exercise. I've seen this one somewhere before, I think. So we have our rubric over here. Let's get started. How can government encourage people to take more exercise? We're talking about better education, free facilities, or exercise time at work. We have to choose two of those, and then say which one we think is more important for governments to consider, providing reasons in support of our opinion. So those are the three content points. We talk about the first thing, the second thing, we leave the other one, and we then choose one, giving reasons. They are three content points. They should be pretty much equal in terms of the text that we have. So let's take a look at this essay. There is no doubt that a great amount of people nowadays is overweight, and this percentage is accelerating. Children growing in such an environment with families suffering from obesity and not taking action are prone to leading the same lifestyle. In view of this, it has been suggested that governments should act to encourage more exercise. Probably the most important action governments can take is to provide better access to information relating the right type of exercises for everybody. Sure, not all needs can be accommodated, but delivering better education on the right things, such as right way of training, right time for doing it, and the food which supports a healthy body is crucial. Purposeful exercising is more than just escaping the sedentary way of living. Large number of persons are ignorant on the subject of working out, and government should indisputably introduce education programs. Since career has taken an important place in people's lives, exercise time at work can be very constructive and productive, even though it's time that is not related to the people's actual job. In theory, this seems an excellent way of encouraging adults to exercise, but in practice, people should be motivated by their work managers as well. Leading a healthy lifestyle, which includes working out, is beneficial to the brain work. Consequently, this time off work can actually improve the employee's performance at their job. In view of the above arguments, I believe governments have the power to influence people, stimulating them to take action and face this challenge of escaping their comfort zone and making an effort to better their athletic abilities. Okay, so in terms of the content then, we start off with what I think is quite a nice introduction. It's a good way of repackaging the rubric and giving some context to what follows. So I think that was a good start. We then move on to the content points, and the first point is the choice of better education. So this is about governments encouraging the education of healthy living, healthy diet, healthy exercise, things like that. Okay, that's fair enough. The next point is covered, and that's about exercise time at work, and that's covered pretty well. However, I don't think that it's very clear which of these is more important for governments. The candidate has highlighted it in the rubric, but they haven't really addressed it. They haven't said why one and why not the other, so that they have a full content point there. And as a result, I'm going to say that we're looking at between a 3 and a 4. Moving on, let's take a look at our communicative achievement. For a band 3, we want evidence that the candidate uses the conventions of the communicative task, first of all. Okay, so what are the conventions of an essay? You need to introduce an argument or a point connected with one of these that were presented in the rubric, and you need to develop it to convince the target reader that you've been paying attention in the lesson, but also that you've thought about this issue. That's done. I think that's done quite well. The target reader's attention is held, I would say, for the most part, and we have to communicate straightforward and complex ideas as appropriate. I would say that that's done. I think that there are better ways of communicating some of these ideas, certainly in terms of what's expected for an essay. So for example, here where it says, sure, not all needs can be accommodated, but delivering. So sure is maybe not the best way of introducing the point. Maybe while it is impossible to accommodate every need, delivering better education on the right things to do is important. These right things would include appropriate ways of training, the right choice of time, that sort of thing. You kind of lead into it in a slightly more formal way. I have actually just noticed in terms of the content, yeah, I missed this the first time, probably the most important action governments can take. Okay, so that does address that, which method you think is more important, but it doesn't develop it. It doesn't give reasons, does it? So it's still going to be a 4, so that's fine. I'm not going to be changing my content mark. The communicative achievement, we're going to go for a 3, I would say, because the ideas are addressed quite well, but we don't have that final content point, which means that there's no expansion, no straightforward or complex ideas there, because it's not really built in any way, and that's going to kind of weigh against it a little bit. In terms of organization, the paragraphing is good. The sentences in each paragraph build the idea pretty well. So as we go through, we're learning more about what this student wanted to say and what they wanted to express on each point. So I think that that's pretty good. There's nice, some good variation in sentence formation. So it's not all subject, verb, object in a kind of like I think, I think, I think. We have things like purposeful exercising is more than just. So that's pretty good. Leading a healthy lifestyle, which includes working out, is beneficial, like that. So this is nice in terms of organization at sentence level. There's some good linking, like consequently here, because you talk about something and then the result of that. I think that's nice. So yeah, the organization is fairly solid, and I think we'd be looking at a 3 for that. There we go. Now we come to the language. The grammar is generally okay. There are errors here and there, but a lot more of the errors are to do with word choice. I'm just going to highlight a few. I'm not going to go through every single one that I can see here. I don't believe that it's always beneficial to kind of pick out every single mistake. Mistakes, to me, and from what I've read in the research, I'm thinking of like a paper by Truscott in 1996. Mistakes are evidence of incomplete learning. And if you point out the mistakes to a student, what you're trying to do is teach that gap in learning wrong. I mean, you can't just say, oh, this is the answer, remember it for next time. That's not going to help the student learn. It's not what you would do in the classroom. If you were teaching present perfect, for example, you wouldn't stand up in front of the class as the teacher and say, this is present perfect, you use it here, here, and here. Okay, I've told you, therefore you've learned it. That's not how it works. So pointing out mistakes doesn't necessarily mean that students will learn from their mistakes. The best thing you can do as a student, if you want to get better at writing, is write more, and definitely read more in English, because that reading will be more input in English in the medium that you are going to be producing yourself. Yeah. So if you read more, your writing will be better. If you listen more, your speaking will be better, because when you read, you see text. When you write, you produce text. When you listen, you hear speech. When you speak, you produce speech. This is basically how it goes. So you need the right kind of input, and you need to produce output as much as possible. So it really delights me that students are sending me their work. It's great that they're doing that, because it shows that a lot of students are taking the time to actually craft writing like this. So coming back to this then, if we take the first sentence, there is no doubt that a great amount of people nowadays is overweight, and this percentage is accelerating. Now, if you highlighted is overweight and thought that was a mistake, well, it's not really a mistake, because it is a great amount. There's a bit of a confusion here in the language, because people is plural. So you would think people nowadays are overweight. I would probably have written it that way myself, but I'm not saying that's right. And I'm not saying this is wrong. I'm saying English is broken because we have this singular quantifier followed by a plural noun. What should the verb be? Singular for the quantifier or plural for the noun? English has never figured that out. Style guides for different publications have. And for example, if you want to follow the Chicago style guide, they would say one thing rather than the other. But yeah, so that's not really a problem. The problem, though, is this percentage. Well, we haven't talked about a percentage, so it can't really be this percentage, but we don't say this percentage is accelerating. We could say this trend is accelerating. We could say a growing proportion of people, a growing proportion of people nowadays is or are overweight, and this proportion or percentage then, because it's a proportion percentage, is accelerating. That would fit, but it's not really going to work for us here. So the trend, we could talk about trend accelerating, that would work. What about the later ones? So let's have a look. Some of it's good. I like this. Not all needs can be accommodated. That's nice. Right word for the right use of the word accommodated. That's really good, actually, even for this level. It's not in the rubric, is it? No, it's not. So it's not like copy and paste. So that's great. Well done. Purposeful exercising, you could just about get away with. Yeah. It's more than just escaping the sedentary way of living. That sounds a little bit clunky. Maybe try and think of a better way to put it. I know what you want to say. Try and think again how you would say it. And if anyone has an idea for that one, put it in the comments below and we'll have a look together. There's no reason to go for persons here. We can pluralize the word person. In legal texts, you see one person, two persons. There's a reason for that. When we have person and people, people are the plural, certainly, but you treat them as one body. And in the law, you need to be able to say each and every person in that body. So in legal texts, you will find the word persons, but in an essay like this, there's no reason not to just use the word people. So a large number of people are ignorant on the subject of working out, and the government should, I think this might be a typo, it should be indisputably, should indisputably introduce education programs. Yeah, so there are little mistakes here and there, but they're not going to get in the way too much of communication. I'm going to be a little bit generous because I quite like some of the writing here. I'm going to go for a 3. So overall, we have a pass. We have a pretty decent essay, something that would stand up to good scrutiny at the level of the exam itself, hopefully. There are little things that could be tweaked as always, but just going into it and writing and doing more writing, this will help. One thing that a lot of students don't do because they find it boring, but it is well worth considering. Once you've written something, send it to me. I'll give some feedback. I'll give some feedback on the language issues. Write it again. Same task. Just do it again. Send it back to me if you like. I'm absolutely content with that sort of thing happening. It's like 2 videos for the price of 1, and the price of 1 was nothing anyway. So there you go. Buy 1, get 1 free. Is that how it works? I think it is. And on that point, I shall say adieu. Goodbye for now.